Welcome everyone again to today's webinar. The title of today's webinar is VMware SDDC Network Visibility and Automation with Big Cloud Fabric vSphere plugin. My name is Angelique Medina. I'm the Senior Product Marketing Manager here at Big Switch Networks, and I'm joined today by Yiting Jin, Product Line Manager at VMware, and on the Big Switch side we have Bala Ramachandran, Director of Product Management, and Don Giacotti, Technical Marketing Engineer. As we go through the presentation, please feel free to ask questions using the Q&A box on your webinar dashboard. If you're watching this video in a rebroadcast or a recording, or if you have questions on an upcoming webinar that you would like to see us deliver, please email us at info@bigswitch.com. We've also provided you with handouts for today's session. You can download them from the Handouts tab on the right-hand side in the dashboard. We have a very full webinar for today, so let's get started. So first joining us is Yiting Jin. She's going to start off with the VMware vSphere plugin introduction, and then we will be joined by Bala Ramachandran. He will go through the BCF and VMware vSphere solution, and then finally we'll have a demo of the joint solution with Don Giacotti. So first starting us off, Yiting, welcome.
So by way of introduction, my name is Yiting Jin, and one of the areas I work on is vSphere interoperability and the ecosystem, so extending the functionality of the vSphere client and managing these different objects with functionality that our partners in our ecosystem has been building. So we'll talk about some of the vSphere client directions, and then I'll hand it over to Bala for some of the functionality that's been built into the Big Switch solution. So this is a shot of the vSphere HTML client. As many of you know, we've been moving very quickly from vSphere Flash client to the vSphere HTML-based client, and that's the screenshot that you're looking at right now. The most obvious benefits here are faster performance and workflows and navigations that are based on the vSphere thick client. The same kinds of navigations that you were used to are in the HTML client, which we shipped with vSphere 6.5 as well as 6.5 Update 1. So we will continue to add additional functionality until it's full functional parity with the Flash client. And this is our top priority at VMware, where every single UI engineer is basically working on moving ahead with the HTML client. Waiting for the slides to advance. So I also want to kind of make sure everybody has an awareness of the VMware Flings site. So we have the HTML client releasing in Flings every few weeks, and with it a toolkit, the SDK, where our partners can be developing on top of the client. And these have been going out every few weeks. So in addition to the official releases of vSphere, you are able to go to the Flings site, which is at labs.vmware.com, where you can see the latest and greatest cutting edge things we're putting into the vSphere client, as well as the SDK for plugin development. And so you can feel free to give us feedback in the forums that are connected to the Fling site. Now, I want to make a few statements about plugins and why do plugins, what are the benefits to having partner solutions that integrate well with the vSphere client. So what I'm showing here are some screenshots of the Flash client actually, but you can see that some plugin solutions have been integrated into the client, where there's nothing special you have to do as a VMware admin or virtual infrastructure admin. You log into the web client as you would normally, and then we provide a lot of tools for our partners to hook in their solutions, so as if it's still living in the vSphere client. The benefits of all of this are that you have this, to use a buzzword, if you will, a seamless single pane of glass experience where you don't have to skip around, you don't have to lose any object context, but everything feels like it's in your home interface. Another thing that we've been really working hard on that was released with vSphere 6.5 is a design standard called Clarity, and some of you may be familiar with this. We are moving all of VMware's product clients toward using this design standard. So what you saw before with the grayer, like the HTML client, the cleaner lines, the improved navigation panes, and user experience will be implemented for our other products as well. So vRealize Operations has already adopted that in their most recent release. And we're also working with our partner ecosystem to build plugins that have the same look and feel and navigational experience as that Clarity design standard. Preserving object context. This is another important thing where if you're going to a different client, you might lose the context of the virtual machine or the host that you're managing. If you're starting from the vSphere client and you're not leaving it, then you have an object in its context, but with the additional functionality that extends what's already there natively in the vSphere client. So we'll get to see some great examples of that from the Big Switch solution. Fewer clicks, logs, and toggling. And this is something that we've heard a lot from our users, that if you have to click 5 times to go to the same screen that you would just have to stay in the vSphere client for, it's just it's a smoother navigation and user experience, and we want to make sure we don't force you to kind of click around just to find the same thing with the object that you're managing. And then really importantly, we want all of our vSphere users to be aware of the partner solutions that we've integrated with. So for the partner side, we've been conducting webinars. We communicate regularly with our partners on tools to help them build plugins into the vSphere client. And for our vSphere admins, our customers and our user base, we're constantly putting our ear to the ground on how we can do more to help you make the most out of your vSphere client experience, including solutions that are built with our partners. So it should be pretty seamless. You might not even be able to tell that you have a different solution that's integrating into vSphere. And if you can't see where the lines are, then we've succeeded. But here we want to give everybody an awareness of all these great features and functionality that our partners have been building without having to leave the comfort, if you will, of your home vSphere client. So I'll kind of talk about plugins and the direction in which we're going. So with 6.5 and vSphere 6.5 Update 1, we've released a SDK with a set of APIs that will work with both the older Flash client, which is this blue one that you're seeing here on the right side of the screen, as well as the newer vSphere HTML client, which is just called the vSphere client, and going forward, it will be the only client. So any plugin that has been built with this SDK, such as what Big Switch has done, will work with the vSphere client in HTML as well as backward compatible with the Flash-based client. So these APIs guarantee that backward compatibility. Going forward, I want to comment on the direction where we'll provide this SDK with the same APIs, but the new functionality that we build in will be developed specifically with the vSphere HTML client in mind, and we will not test those new functionalities on the vSphere Flash client. And there is no new API development for the Flex client. So I think it's definitely recommended that you go directly to the H5 client. If we're still missing functionality in the vSphere client, I definitely would like to hear about it, and we have a team of fantastic product managers and developers, testers, who would like to hear from you on why you haven't switched to the H5 client yet. As of 6.5 U1, we've heard some very good stats about how far we've reached in terms of functional parity. So I think the number I've heard is around 90% functional parity. So if you haven't gotten a chance to try out vSphere 6.5 Update 1 yet, definitely go give it a try or check out the content on the Flings. What I also want to say is that directionally, we will be ending support for the Flex client, which we'll officially announce at some point in the future. I can't give a timeline as to when that will happen just yet, but the intention is for the HTML client to be the only client experience. As many of you already know, vSphere 6.5 has already stopped shipping the vSphere desktop client or SIG client. And so you just have the Flash client and the HTML client with 6.5. Going forward, there will be a time where we will end support for the Flash client so that the only client to access vSphere will be the HTML client. So I'm going to move ahead and talk about some sample workflows. What can you be doing? What can the partner be developing with the SDK and the tools that we've offered? So one very common use case here is if you're in the summary view of the vSphere client and you're in the home screen, a partner such as Big Switch can extend that global menu. So they can put in a custom, global app, object navigator, extension sample. They can populate that menu item with their own objects or their own actions. Also, these portlets that you see on the summary page here, we give our partners the APIs to insert their custom content into here as well. So if this little portlet called objects with the most alerts, obviously that's a native function of vSphere, but a partner can put in, for example, a dashboard or some tables with data into the home screen directly. So that can be the first thing you see when you log in without having to leave the vSphere client. Another common workflow we've seen is if you're on an object, in this case VM2, and you're in a specific use case like monitor right now, you've got this tab and the standard vSphere actions and menu items. A partner such as BigSwitch or any other solutions can insert their own objects or actions or whatever else in here. So you're in the monitoring use case, you're not jumping around to a different tab to do a monitoring action, even though the solution comes from a non-VMware product. And thirdly, actions that extend a standard list or create custom actions on custom objects. The action menu kind of is a pull down or drop down that you can use to power on a VM or enable fault tolerance, open a console, but a partner solution can also add their own actions that are specific to that solution and put in some options here so that you never have to leave the actions menu to go find it. So those are some integration points, very common ones. Obviously, we provide other ones as well, but these are the ones we see consistently coming up. And you'll get to see examples of that in the next part of the presentation with the Cloud Fabric. And finally, I wanted to let everybody know that we have a plugin certification program so that you as VMware admins and users can be assured that the interop testing between VMware solution and a partner solution such as BigSwitch has already been done, and this information is up on the VMware compatibility guide. There are multiple benefits to this. I think one of the biggest strengths of VMware is the strength of its ecosystem. So having the certification program helps us tell you as our users that we have the stability checked, we have the performance checked, plugins running on the vSphere client would not impact the performance of the vSphere client. The certification program helps improve plugin interoperability. With this many vendors in our ecosystem, the interop is more important than ever. So plugin solutions that have gone through the certification program and are showing up in the VMware compatibility guide are assured to have done this interop testing. And of course, all of this comes back to improve the core vSphere client functionality as well. So whatever input we get from our partners and our users of these solutions through the certification program, I think if you use a plugin that's been certified, you get a certain set of kind of guarantees that you would not otherwise. So one example of our set of certified partners are showing here in the screenshot, where this is, if you type VMware compatibility guide, it's the first search result. And here I'm showing that with the vSphere 6.5 and 6.5 update solutions or product release versions, we have BigSwitch's Big Cloud Fabric plugin for the vSphere client certified. So this is currently showing up on the compatibility guide. So if you click on that, it'll take you to a page that gives you more information about the solution. So you can kind of be assured that the BigSwitch solution has been tested, vetted through the certification program. So this is a great advancement. I'm very glad to have BigSwitch as one of our earliest adopters of the certification program, and that they have an HTML plugin for the latest vSphere HTML client. So we're very excited to have BigSwitch on board with us in the certification program. So now I'm going to go hand it over to Bala. So, and I think I can take any questions afterwards if anybody has anything.
Great. Thanks, Yiting. So if we want to go ahead and answer a question before we move on to Bala's section. So we have a question that's, does Flex SDK require additional license, or is it covered with enterprise license?
It's covered with the, well, if you are a developer, I think the Flex SDK is targeted towards developers who wish to build some kind of custom solution on top of the vSphere client that is also guaranteed to work with the vCenter infrastructure backend. So from a licensing perspective, it's all included in all the additions. You don't need an enterprise plus specific license to do that.
Great. All right. So now we're going to move on to Bala Ravichandra's section. This is Big Cloud Fabric in the VMware vSphere solution.
Thank you, Angelique, and thank you very much, Eating. That was a great overview. As we all know, data centers are being transformed today by a software-defined approach, and the Big Cloud Fabric integration with vSphere is driving network automation and visibility for VMware SDDC. So in this section, we'll see two things, right? One, how the network admins benefit from this integration, all the automation benefits that we provide with the solution, while the vSphere plugin, which we have developed for Big Cloud Fabric, extends those visibility benefits to the VM admin by presenting them on the vCenter GUI. But before we get into that, let's look into the broader picture and understand why we have the automation built in into our solution. Now, data centers are increasingly becoming virtualized and software-defined as organizations seek to gain resource and operational efficiency, as well as to increase the speed of innovation. Now, application architectures are evolving, which demand that the compute, network, storage resources are automatically provisioned, they're auto-scaled as application needs grow. And secondly, business velocity is an imperative for organizations to stay competitive. So speed of application deployment and provisioning become very critical. And all of this, of course, needs to be achieved within a limited budget, and hence they are looking for solutions with the lowest total cost of ownership. Now, specifically, if we look at networking, networking has traditionally been driven by features-based box-by-box management, and this approach is complex as it involves tedious CLI commands to be executed on multiple boxes to achieve what is needed, be it configuration or troubleshooting. Now, what Big Switch has evolved is an intent-based approach to networking, which is achieved through software running on industry-standard open networking hardware. Now, the approach is to basically eliminate the complex and tedious parts of the network deployment and provisioning with automation, zero-touch management, and visibility. Big Cloud Fabric products act as one logical switch, and there's no additional management as you scale out the fabric. So this aspect really simplifies the network operations, as a deployment intent can just be given and managed over a single logical entity. And such an architecture is foundational for the next generation transformation that's going to happen to knowledge-driven autonomous networking. So this architecture is best suited for that kind of a transformation that will occur in the future. So to take a closer look at Big Cloud Fabric, it's a physical leaf-spine class fabric built with open networking switches which connect ESXi hosts, with the entire fabric managed by a central SDN-based BCF controller. Now, the BCF Switch Lite OS, which is the operating system which runs on open network switching platforms, that forms the fabric. Now, these platforms come from multiple vendors such as Dell, HPE, or Acton. Now, if you look at the fabric, there are no complex protocols which are run within the fabric, and the centralized SDN controller acts as a single pane of glass to manage the entire physical network environment. And the controller also acts as a single point of integration with VMware vCenter to automate physical networking for ESXi workloads. Now, the vCenter integration also provides unique visibility benefits, which we'll look into shortly, and for the network administrators on the BCF controller dashboard. So let's get into some of the detailed benefits that the network admins gain with this integrated solution. So let's first look at some of the automation benefits, right? So essentially, the solution streamlines application deployment workflows by automating the physical network configuration for VMware virtual workloads. There are, the key benefits, automation benefits are, when ESXi hosts are connected to BCF, they're automatically discovered by the controller using LLDP or CDP initiated on the vSphere virtual switches. And then link aggregation groups are automatically formed with the leaf switches, making it a zero-touch operation. Now, as part of the application deployment process, vCenter creates, modifies, or deletes virtual switch port groups. Now, when that happens, BCF controller gets notified of these events, and they're automatically created. Layer 2 network segments are automatically created, modified, deleted, and so on, as the operations happen on the vCenter. Now, a newly created VM in the vCenter is dynamically learned by the BCF as well as an endpoint. Now, also when a vMotion is initiated in vCenter, a BCF controller gets notified of this new location of the VM, and it migrates the network policies automatically, updates the forwarding tables with this new information. Now, most importantly, the solution also provides a lot of visibility and troubleshooting, simplified troubleshooting benefits to the network administrator. Now, they get visibility at the virtual machine level and a lot of VM-related information, such as the host, the VM NICs, the physical fabric interfaces to which the hosts are connected, and VM endpoint information like the IP MAC and the logical segment it belongs to, and so on. And secondly, a lot of troubleshooting and visibility benefits, right? So VM to VM traffic visibility can be graphically seen on the BCF controller using a path trace that can be executed between any two VM endpoints in the fabric. Now, if you think about it, this level of visibility to traffic on a single pane of glass just cannot be achieved with box by box networking. And so this offers tremendous operational savings when when you're operating your network. And finally, there are Fabric Analytics dashboards which are available for VMware networking. So now that we understand the benefits the network admin gets from the BCF integration with vSphere, let's look at the vSphere plugin for BCF and how it extends these benefits to VM admins. So VM admins gain visibility into the networking environment that the VMs connect to in a very intuitive graphical user interface. Thus, they are able to correlate the virtual and the physical networking environment. The path trace capability that I talked about, which is available in the Big Cloud Fabric GUI for the network admins, are now available here for the VM admins. So as they go through a troubleshooting session, they can directly do that on the vCenter console. The VM admins can do that. And as Yeting mentioned earlier, Big Cloud Fabric is one of the first products to transition to plugin for HTML5 client. So it leverages some of the features offered by the HTML5 framework. And so this has enabled a modern HTML5-based look and feel of the BCF vCenter GUI plugin screens. Now, we have also leveraged the framework to create detailed network information about the VMs and make them available to the VM admins at their fingertips. They're able to see all the logical segments that when a VMware port groups are created, they are mapped to the logical segments in BCF. So you're able to see them on the vCenter. They're able to see the network state and the segment membership of the VM endpoints. And all the network details of an endpoint are readily available in the endpoint view. So a lot of custom screens have been developed using the modern HTML5 framework, which are available for VM admins. And finally, as I mentioned earlier, VM admins have advanced troubleshooting capabilities with the trace path feature available via the plugin. So they can see the path between any two endpoints in the fabric. And if there's an error in the path, it is pinpointed right away, making troubleshooting a one-click operation for the VM admins. So this enables the VM admins to quickly focus on where a specific application may be. Specifically, it can be determined in minutes if it's related to a networking error or not. So that's a very, very important benefit that a VM admin gets, and he gets a consistent view along with the network admin. So if we were to summarize, the two things, right? The crux of it is they get a consistent visibility, both the network admins and the VM admins. So the BCF integrated solution, offers this consistent view so that both of them are on the same page with respect to the network states of their VM endpoints. So specifically, if you look at the network admins, they have VM level visibility on the Big Cloud Fabric controller, while the VM admins get the network related details for the VMs on the vCenter via the GUI plugin. And thus they can be sure how the network parameters that the VM admins configured have actually translated to the network state for the VM endpoints. And all the unique troubleshooting and visibility features which are unique to BCF because of its SDN architecture are available to both network and VM admins. And example of that is the path tracing capability that I talked about. Now, as Yiding mentioned earlier, we are very happy to announce that VMware has recently completed a rigorous testing of the BCF plugin for the vSphere client and has officially certified it under the VMware Ready SDDC management and orchestration program. We are especially excited that we are the first SDN fabric to achieve the certification, and with this, we have been able to successfully demonstrate the benefits of transitioning our plugin to the modern HTML5 framework. With that, I'll turn it over to Dawn, who has a great demo planned for us to take us through a couple of workflows on the BCF GUI and the vCenter GUI plugin to help us understand how both the network admins and the VM admins can benefit from our solution. Over to you, Dawn.
All right, thanks, Bala. Good morning, everyone. So we have an exciting demo plan for today. So for today's demo topology, we have 3 ESXi hosts connected to the Big Cloud Fabric, and all these are managed by the vCenter. If you go to the vCenter, you will see each of these hosts have 2 VMs on them, app and a web VM. And you will also see HQ traffic DV switch is connected to these guys. VMNIC 2 and 3 are connected as uplinks, and each VM is attached to the corresponding app and web port group. App is configured with VLAN 25 and web is configured with VLAN 35. So in here, if we try to open up the console of the app VM and try to ping the other app VM, we will eventually see the ping will fail. This is because we haven't configured the underlying networking yet. So in a traditional networking environment, this can be a multi-stage process. You may have to file a support ticket, coordinate other details such as VLANs, ports, etc. But in Big Cloud Fabric, all this can be achieved through a couple of clicks. All we need to do is point the vCenter to the BCF controller under the integration. As you will see shortly, enabling the integration will result in traffic forwarding. So there are multiple things BCF automatically do to get the end-to-end connectivity going. It will automatically create lags, learn about the VMs, and etc. Apart from all these automatic provisioning that BCF provides, it will also give network admin unprecedented visibility into the vSphere environment. So let's go ahead and dig a little bit deeper. So if you go ahead and click 2361 host and HQ traffic switch, you will see we've automatically discovered the links and created interface groups. Furthermore, network admins will be able to quickly see which vCenter port group is mapped to which VLAN and what VMs are part of this VLAN. If we scroll down to the host table, you will see different usage information. In the virtual switch table, network admins will be able to see and correlate all the relevant information about the virtual networks. BCF also flags errors and warnings for each and individual virtual switch. This will cut down time when it comes to the troubleshooting. So the same applies to the VMs as well. Big Cloud Fabric aggregates all the relevant information for a particular VM. Admins can quickly search using different parameters and get a detailed picture about a particular VM. So as you can see, there is a wealth of information present here to help the network admin. So one of the unique features of Big Cloud Fabric is we try to level the playing field by giving vCenter admins all the necessary information and tools to efficiently manage their vSphere environments. We achieve this goal through the vSphere client plugin. So let's go ahead and deploy the client plugin and take a look inside. Again, deploying the plugin is a couple of click process. If you go inside the vSphere client and navigate to the BCF plugin, VM admins will be able to see the latest status of the network fabric, whether the network has gone down recently, whether the vCenter is properly connected, what time the last updated and what time it got last synced, etc. BCF plugin will present various network mappings and fabric topology information to VM admins. If you go inside the vCenter, you will see the VLAN 25 and 35 are correctly mapped to the app and web port groups. Let's go inside one more step and you will see both app VMs are correctly present in this network segment. This view quickly validates that Big Cloud Fabric is seeing both VMs properly and there are no issues from the physical network standpoint. If we move over to the fabric topology section, we'll be able to see correlated information about each virtual switch. Admins will be able to see how exactly they are connected to the BCF fabric, which physical links are attached, to which MLAGs, and so on and so forth. VM summary will summarize all the relevant information about a particular VM connected to the port group. Using the endpoint screen, VM admins will be able to very quickly resolve any traffic issues. They will be able to very quickly run a search for a VM or a VM kernel. For example, let's say VM admin figure out he cannot ping the third app VM. As you see in here, this endpoint shows as not active in the BCF. Recall that in the previous screen, we saw only 2 VMs active on this app network segment. This hints that VM is not properly mapped to this VLAN. So let's go ahead and double check that the port group backing of this VM. So if you try to initiate ping through this VM, it will fail. The reason is it's not actually active in the Big Cloud Fabric. Let's go back to the vCenter and verify the port group backing for this app65 VM. As you can see, it's not correctly mapped. After correcting the port group, traffic will start flowing through eventually. Note that BCF automatically picks up this change and provision the network and sync all the information to the plugin side itself, so that VM admin actually has the updated view of the network. One of the most important features of the Big Cloud Fabric plugin is the ability for VM admin to run a test path right from the vCenter. So assume that a VM admin is having an issue with 2 VMs, and he can quickly run a test path right from the vCenter to troubleshoot the underlying networking problem. So let's pick up the same 2 app VMs and run a test path for a controller view. The controller view tells us exactly what the logical view of that traffic path would look like. This would catch any misconfigurations, such as configuration errors on the vCenter side, as well as configuration errors on the Big Cloud Fabric side. It will also tell you whether the traffic is going to get dropped due to some sort of a restriction, such as a network access policy. The result for the controller view right now tells us there are no logical issues preventing the traffic between these 2 app VMs. So however, if the VM admin wants to run a live test and make sure whether the traffic is flowing correctly, he can run a fabric view test. We'll run the test for the same set of VMs. So you will quickly see when the results comes out, it will be an end-to-end view about the whole traffic flow end-to-end starting from the vCenter to the Big Cloud Fabric. It will tell us from which host to which VM to which virtual switch to which physical adapters the traffic is flowing and how exactly it's traversing through the physical network, which ports of the leaf switches, which ports of the spine switches, and finally it will point at the destination VM's IP addresses and corresponding ESXi host, virtual switches, and etc. So this pretty much concludes the demo for the BCF plugin for the vSphere client. Hope all of you got a good grasp of how differentiating Big Cloud Fabric is, and most importantly, how we are trying to level the playing field between network admin and VM admin using our vSphere client plugin. Thanks. Back to you, Angelique.
Thanks, Don. Great stuff. So we're going to move into our Q&A section. So if you do have any questions for our presenters, please feel free to enter them into the question tab of the dashboard. And we already have a couple of questions, so we're going to go ahead and get to those. So the first question that we are going to get to is, does BCF have integration with other VMware products?
Thanks, Angelique. That was a great question. So we talked about the integration with vSphere, which is a sort of our central integration, which actually enables integration with a lot of other products, VMware products. Specifically, we have a very optimal physical fabric for NSX. If you can deploy NSX along with BCF, so it's an SDN optimized physical fabric to go with the NSX overlay, and we bring unique benefits like you're able to get visibility into traffic between two VTEPs in the network and so on. And then for vSAN, we have an optimized solution. Specifically, you can do a single-click multicast, which is a very key benefit, apart from all the other benefits that we get via the vSphere integration within the vSAN environment. And we have a solution for VIO, OpenStack solution with VIO, which again is very automated for OpenStack environments. And finally, we have a solution with containers with VMware VIC. So, I mean, across the board, we have a lot of very cool integrated solutions with VMware. And we realize log insight is another key benefit that we can leverage with our Big Cloud Fabric product in terms of the operational simplicity that brings into the environment, into the VMware environment with BCF.
Great, thank you, Bala. Another question that we have is, would VMware be supporting both Flash and HTML5 client moving forward?
Hi, sure, I can take that one. So currently, the plan is to continue supporting the Flash client as well as the HTML client in the 6.x series. We will for sure announce a terminal release of the Flex client or the Flash client before actually pulling support for the Flash client. But the intention is to end support for the Flash client. In fact, as soon as the HTML client reaches full functional parity with the Flash client, there's really no more reason to keep the Flash client around. And I think most of you, if not all of you, would agree with us that you're not going to miss the Flash client terribly because of its slower performance based on the Flash dependencies. So we're using the last few releases of the 6.x vSphere series to kind of clean house, if you will, of any Flex dependencies or Flash dependencies, so that going forward, everything is only on the HTML vSphere client that you saw within the demo and you saw in my slides earlier. So that is the direction that we're moving very quickly toward. But until we make the announcement that we will end support for the Flash client, you can assume that both the Flash client and the HTML client will be supported. But in the future time frame, the intention certainly is to get rid of supporting the Flash client.
Great, thank you. So another question that we have is, does Big Cloud Fabric, Big Cloud Fabric supported minimum vSphere version?
I can take that question, Angelique. Yeah, so we support both 6.0 and 6.5 at this point. We always planning to support at least 2 releases going forward, 6.5 being the latest and greatest release from VMware.
Great, thank you. So we do have quite a few additional questions, but we're going to handle those questions offline, and we'll get a response to everybody who has a question here today. But we're coming up against the end of our webinar today, so we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. So if something that we discussed here piqued your interest, or you'd just like to learn more, go ahead and head over to our website at bigswitch.com, or you can go ahead and send us an email at info@bigswitch.com. So we make it pretty easy for you to get started with our solutions. There are several resources you can download or watch that will give you a tour of our products. In the handouts, you'll find live links. You can click to access any of these resources listed. So with Big Switch Networks Labs, you can experience our bare metal SDN solutions firsthand. And so there's a lot of really interesting stuff up there. You can check it out. It's free to sign up for access to the labs. We have lab modules available for both Big Cloud Fabric as well as our monitoring fabric solution, Big Monitoring Fabric. So our next webinar coming up is on our GUI. It's session number 3. So this is the 3rd session of a 4-part series. We're going to be covering network and switching fabric visibility. So please join us. That will be taking place on Wednesday, September 13th at 10 a.m. Pacific. And we're also going to be at VMworld next week. So please join us if you're in Vegas. It's the 27th through the 31st. We'll be at booth 808. So that will conclude our webinar for today. We hope that you all have a great day. Take care.